boys and girls. Miss Kathy coming at you here from Shaler North Hills Library, and we are continuing our Magic Treehouse series with one of the fairly new ones, number 33, Narwhal on a Sunny Night. So let's see what's involved with that one. Chapter 1, Greenland. You can read along with us if you have a copy of the book at home, or you can just sit back and relax and listen. Jack and Annie sat on their porch in the warm summer twilight. Jack was reading a library book called Amazing Facts. "Get this," he said, "a beehive can have as many as 60 million bees in it." "Is that all?" Annie said. "Huh," said Jack. "Okay, then get this." He read, "Some experts say there might be 10 billion trillion stars in the universe." "Wrong," said Annie. "In fact, there are 10 billion trillion and 73. Jack laughed. They both looked up at the dark blue sky. The first stars were coming out. "Seriously, 10 billion trillion?" said Annie. "I can't even imagine it." She stood up. "Hi, how did you see that? Hey, do you see that?" "What?" said Jack. "A little cloud," Annie said. "Where?" said Jack, standing. "Over the treetops," said Annie. "Oh, man," whispered Jack. He saw it too, a small brightly glowing cloud over the Frog Creek woods. "We'd better check it out," said Annie. Jack put his book on the back porch chair. "Mom, Dad," called through the screen door. "We'll be back soon." 15 minutes, their dad called. "We'll watch a movie together." "Great," called Jack. He grabbed his backpack and then turned to Annie. "Let's go. Hurry." Jack and Annie dashed down the porch steps. They tore across their yard and headed up the sidewalk. When they came to the Frog Creek woods, they crossed the street and hurried between the trees. The darkening woods were filled with the sounds of crickets and frogs. The air smelled of warm green leaves and wood and earth. Soon Jack and Annie came to the tallest oak. "Hooray!" said Annie. The magic tree house was back. It was shimmering against the evening sky. "Yes," said Jack. He grabbed the rope ladder and started up. Annie followed. They climbed into the treehouse. "Look," said Jack. In the last light of day, he saw a book on the floor. He grabbed the book. He read the title on the plain green cover, "Greenland, the world's largest island." "Greenland," said Annie. "That sounds nice." "Yeah, our teacher told us about Greenland," said Jack, "but I don't remember what he said." "Open the book," said Annie. Jack opened the book. He found a map in a pocket on the inside cover. He took it out and unfolded it. Everything was black and white except for Greenland. The huge island was colored green. "Greenland sounds so beautiful," said Annie. "Like it's filled with green grass and green trees." "Don't be fooled. It can't be very green," said Jack. "Why not?" said Annie. "Because look." With his finger, Jack traced a circle on the map. "This is the Arctic Circle. Inside the circle is most of Greenland, Norway, Iceland, and parts of Canada and Russia. It's one of the coldest regions in the world." "Oh, then why is the island called Greenland?" asked Annie. Jack shrugged. "And why are we going there?" he said. "Do you see anything from Morgan?" They looked around the treehouse again. "Here," said Annie. She picked up a small piece of yellow paper. She read aloud, "On your next journey, you will land on the shore of an island with icebergs, reindeer, and more. On a day that seems endless, with no dark of night, travel through fog, travel through light. Explore different worlds, show friends where to go. Unite all these worlds with a word that will glow." "No dark of night?" said Jack. "What does that mean?" "I don't know," said Annie. "And what about unite all these worlds with a word that will glow?" "Yeah, what word?" said Jack. "Sounds really cold, too, with icebergs and reindeer and more." "But that could be fun," said Annie. "We can handle cold. Remember our great trip to the Arctic a while ago?" Oh, right, said Jack. We wore those polar bear masks. And saved the baby bears, said Annie. That was fun, right? Yeah, it was, said Jack. Okay, back to the cold. Annie pointed at the green island on their map. I wish we could go there, she said. The wind started to blow. The tree house started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. Absolutely still. Chapter 2. Ice everywhere. Sunlight shone through the treehouse window. The sound of splashing water came from outside. Hey, it doesn't feel that cold, said Annie. Maybe because we're wearing these heavy woolen clothes, said Jack. Their summer clothes had changed into wool outfits. Now they had on thick wool coats, wool shirts, wool caps, wool mittens, and wool pants. Even Jack's backpack had changed into a wool bag. His notebook and pencil were inside. You were right, said Annie. I don't see much green here. Jack looked out with her. The tree house had landed on the rocky shore of an ocean bay. Across the water were brown mountains with snow-white peaks. The air felt crisp and clean. Seagulls swooped low over sparkling blue seawater. The sun shined on sheets of ice. Ready to explore? Said Annie. Yep, said Jack. Jack slipped their map back inside the Greenland book. He put the book and Morgan's rhyme in the wool bag. Then he and Annie climbed out the window. They stepped onto a pebbly shore. Oh, man, ice everywhere, said Jack. The ocean bay was filled with ice. Small flat icebergs were floating in the middle of the bay. Others were close to shore. The water must be freezing, said Annie. Jack took off a glove and dipped his hand into the seawater. Ow, he yelped. It's so cold it hurts. Jack dried his hand and put his glove back on. Then he took out the Greenland book. He read aloud from the first page. For millions of years, Greenland has been mostly covered with ice. In the 21st century, experts worry that the world's climate is warming and the ice is melting. Scientists from different countries live at research stations in Greenland to study the effects of climate change. Now I remember what my teacher told us, said Jack. Melting ice in the Arctic can cause sea levels to rise and lead to disaster. That's serious, said Annie. I hope we meet some scientists. Me too, said Jack. I wonder who else lives here. He found a section in the book called People of Greenland. He read, Experts believe that people first occupied Greenland about 4,500 years ago. Today, 56,000 people live on the island. Most of them are known as the Inuit. Inuit, said Annie, like the Inuit seal hunter we met on our Arctic trip. He was great. Yeah, but I don't see any signs of Inuit people in this area, said Jack. He looked around at the cold, barren landscape. It feels pretty lonely. Wait, look at that, said Annie. She pointed to a group of small, silver-gray creatures resting on an iceberg. I think those are seals, said Jack. You're so little and cute, said Annie. Jack found a chapter on seals in the book. He read, Greenland has 3 kinds of ice seals. Ringed seals are the smallest. Okay, they must be ringed seals, said Jack. Suddenly the seals let out high-pitched barks. They spun their heads from side to side, then they slipped off the ice and disappeared into the water. I think we scared them, said Jack. A swooshing sound came from across the bay. Not us, cried Annie. A whale! A huge gray whale was skimming across the water. A sharp burst of air spurted out the blowhole on top of its head. Whoa, said Jack. The whale leapt into the air. Then it crashed down with a giant splash. It dove under the sea. A humpback! That was a humpback, said Annie. I saw the bump on its back. Humpback whales sing. They sing a different song every year. How do you know that? Said Jack. I love whales. I wrote a report on them, said Annie. Great, said Jack. He looked up whales in the index of their book. He found the right page and read aloud. Greenland's waters are filled with whales. 15 different kinds can be seen along its coasts and ocean inlets. They include humpback whales, orcas, narwhals, beluga whales. Wait, more whales, cried Annie. A bunch more. I know, said Jack, not looking up from the book. There are 15 kinds. He kept reading. Fin whales, blue whales. Stop! I mean more in real life, shouted Annie. Look up, Jack. Jack looked up. He couldn't believe his eyes. About a dozen whales were swimming in the bay now. They had sleek gray backs. Each had a long tusk jutting from its rounded head. Narwhals, shouted Annie. Real narwhals. Chapter 3, Unicorns of the Sea. The narwhals were bounding through the water. Foamy waves washed over the ice. I wrote about narwhals in my report, said Annie. They're some of the most mysterious creatures on earth. She ran down the pebbly shore to get a closer look. Clutching the book in his bag, Jack ran after her. They're called the unicorns of the sea, Annie shouted over her shoulder. I get it, called Jack. Their long horns look just like the horns of unicorns. The narwhals arched out of the water to breathe the fresh air. As they exhaled, puffs of mist burst from their blowholes like sneezes. Annie stopped running. Their horns are really tusks. And almost all narwhals with tusks are males, she said, panting. And the tusk is a super long tooth. It can be as long as 10 feet. No kidding, a 10-foot tooth, said Jack. What does the tooth do? He'd heard of narwhals before, but he didn't know much about them. No one knows for sure, said Annie. Scientists hardly ever see narwhals. But we just got here, and there they are. I don't believe it. We're lucky, said Jack. He opened their book. He found a section on narwhals and read aloud, Narwhals are mysterious whales that live most of their lives in the dark sea. They can dive deeper than any other mammal and stay underwater for 25 minutes. No narwhal has ever survived in captivity. That's odd, said Jack. Most animals live longer in captivity. They get plenty of food and they don't get killed by predators. I know, said Annie, but when narwhals are captured and put in aquariums, they don't live long. They need to be free. She and Jack watched the narwhals dive deeper into the water. Their large, heart-shaped tails flashed above the surface. Then the creatures disappeared from sight. Jack read more. Like most whales, narwhals communicate underwater by using a variety of sounds such as clicks, whistles, and squeaks. Scientists put recorders in the sea, said Annie, and they hear all these weird sounds, but they can't figure out what narwhals are saying or how they can hear at such long distances. Look, they're back, said Jack. The narwhals had popped to the surface. Several were swimming upside down. Some were pushing each other around. Others waved their tusks and tapped them together. Why are they tapping their tusks, said Jack. They're having a chat, said Annie. Jack laughed. Actually, scientists say they might use their tusks to attract mates or gather information, said Annie. As Jack watched the narwhals bob up and down in the water, he tried to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the middle of his count, seabirds began to screech overhead. The narwhals made loud whooshing sounds. They thrashed around in the water. What's wrong, said Annie. That, said Jack. A tall fin was gliding across the bay. It looked like a black flag. A shark? Cried Annie. No, that's way bigger than a shark fin, said Jack. Suddenly, a giant whale burst out of the waves. It had a black back and a white belly. It was as big as a school bus. The whale crashed down into the water. An orca, a killer whale, cried Annie. And there's more than one, said Jack. At least 4 other giant black fins appeared in the bay. The killer whales were headed straight for the herd of narwhals. Chapter 4, Stand Back. Go, guys, go, Annie shouted to the narwhals. She raced to the shoreline. Jack ran with her. Go, 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 he yelled as loudly as he could. The narwhals dove under the surface of the water again. The orcas took off after them. But one of the huge predators swam toward Jack and Annie. Whoa, said Jack, pulling Annie back from the edge of the sea. Suddenly there was a flurry of splashes and whooshing sounds. What's happening? Said Jack. The orca's chasing a narwhal, cried Annie. A small narwhal had separated from his herd. He was swimming toward a row of icebergs about 30 feet offshore. "The orca's still coming," said Annie. The giant orca kept chasing the narwhal. "Hurry!" cried Jack. The narwhal escaped through a passage in the row of icebergs. He swam into a pool of shallow water. The orca was too big to swim through the opening. It crashed against the huge mounds of ice. Some of the ice splintered and broke off in chunks. The orca tried to swim under the icebergs, but the water was too shallow. It smashed against the barrier again, but the passage was still tomorrow. Finally, the killer whales swam away. "Yay!" said Annie. Jack sighed with relief. The narwhal was alone in the pool of water. "They're gone," Jack called to him. "You can go now. Go!" "Hurry before they come back," yelled Annie. "Find your friends," shouted Jack. As they spoke, more ice shifted and fell. A chunk of fallen ice now completely blocked the passage that led back out to deep water. The narwhal circled inside the shallow pool, surrounded by packed ice. He was trapped. "Oh no, he can't get out," said Annie. "Stand back," someone shouted behind them. "Move away." Jack and Annie whirled around. A boy with shoulder-length red hair stood on some rocks above them. He looked as young as Annie, but he was holding a huge spear. "Whoa, hi," said Jack. "Who are you?" The boy scowled. He wore a red tunic with a rope around his waist, leather pants, and boots. His spear was made of wood and had a sharp metal blade. Maybe his parents work at a research station, thought Jack. Maybe he likes to dress in costumes and play with ancient weapons. "Move away. He is mine," the boy said. "What do you mean, yours?" said Jack. "He's not anybody's," said Annie. The boy strode down the slope toward the water. He raised his spear, aiming it at the narwhal. "No, stop. What are you doing?" said Jack. He charged at the boy and tried to take his spear away. The boy lost his grip and dropped it. Jack grabbed the spear. It was so heavy he could barely lift it. What kind of kid carries around something like this, he wondered. "Give it back," the boy said. He reached for his spear, but Annie jumped between him and Jack. "Stop," she said. "Why do you want to hurt that narwhal? What's wrong with you?" "His horn is worth a fortune. Everyone knows that," said the boy. "That's a terrible reason," said Annie. "You can't kill him for his horn," said Jack. "Why not?" said the boy. He stared at Jack with fierce blue eyes. "Because narwhals are special," said Annie. "They're mysteries of nature. They know secrets we'll never know. They hear things in ways we'll never hear. They talk in a language we'll never understand. Get it?" The boy looked from Jack to Annie. He took a deep breath and stepped to the water's edge. He stared at the narwhal as if seeing the creature for the first time. Then he turned back to Jack and Annie. "I will help you free him," he said. "Thank you," said Annie. "Here, you can have this back," said Jack. He gave the boy his spear. "How can we free him?" asked Annie. "We will go to him together," said the boy. "Come with me." Chapter 5, Eric's Son. Jack and Annie followed the boy up the rocky slope and down the other side. There was a wooden rowboat on the shore. It looked like it had been made by hand. 2 oars were inside. The boy put his spear into the boat, then pushed it halfway into the water. "Sit at this end," he said. "Thanks," said Annie. She and Jack climbed into the rowboat. They sat together on a wooden seat. The boy pushed the boat farther into the water. Then he jumped aboard and sat in the center, facing Jack and Annie. He grasped the oars. He looked over his shoulder to see where to go. Then he pulled the oars through the water, and the rowboat began moving away from shore. The wind had picked up, and the water was choppy. The rowboat rocked from side to side. "Hold on tightly," the boy said. "If we fall in, we freeze to death." Jack gripped the side of the boat as it bumped through the waves. The boy rowed around a bend in the bay when he headed toward the ice barrier trapping the narwhal. He rowed close to a wide, flat chunk of ice. "Hey, you!" Annie called to the whale. "Don't be afraid." The narwhal was still swimming in circles. He had a cone-shaped body and short front flippers. His long ivory tusk looked like twisted rope. "We've come to help you," said Annie. "We need to break up that piece of ice," said the boy to Jack. He pointed to the chunk that was blocking the narwhal's exit. Right, said Jack. How do we do that? Sit here. Hold the boat steady, said the boy. He made room for Jack to sit next to him on the center seat. Then he handed Jack the oars. Jack grasped the wooden handles and tried to keep the boat from tipping over. The boy carefully stood up. He stepped out onto the flat ice surface. The boat rocked, but Jack used the oars to keep it close to the ice. The boy started kicking the ice chunks. He kicked and kicked. Suddenly he slipped and fell hard onto the icy surface. He clutched his right knee and groaned. "Are you okay?" said Annie. "Yes," said the boy. He tried to stand up, but he groaned again and sat back on the ice. "Wait, I can help," said Annie. Jack held the boat steady as Annie climbed out. She kicked the fallen ice chunk, but it didn't move. "Use the spear," said Jack. He let go of the oars long enough to pick up the boy's spear. "Use it how?" said Annie. "Just take it." Jack held the spear out to her. "Careful, it's super heavy." Annie took the spear with both hands. "Slide it between the chunk of ice and the big iceberg," said Jack. Annie wedged the spear between the two solid blocks of ice. "Got it?" said Jack. "Now pull back." Annie pulled hard on the spear. "I can help," said the boy. Even though he was injured, he stood up. He gripped the spear with Annie, and they pulled together. Bit by bit, the ice began to splinter against the steel blade of the spear. Annie and the boy kept pushing and pulling until the fallen chunk of ice finally popped free, and like a cork popping out of a bottle. The narwhal kept circling the shallow pool. "This way," Annie called to him. She pointed to the gap in the ice. "Swim through there." The narwhal seemed to understand. He looked at Annie, then turned and shot out through the passage. Jack and Annie raised their arms above their heads and shook their fists. "Yay!" they shouted. The boy looked at them. Then he raised his arms too and shook his fist. "Yay!" he said. Jack and Annie laughed, and the boy laughed with them. For the first time, he seemed like a regular kid, Jack thought. The three of them watched the narwhal swim away and disappear into deep water. The boy smiled at Jack and Annie. "You both are strong and smart," he said. "Thanks," they said together. "Are you sure you're okay?" said Jack. "Yes," said the boy. "What's your name?" said Annie. "Erickson," said the boy. "My father is Eric." "Oh, I get it. Your dad is Eric. So you are called Eric's son," said Annie. "Yes," said Erickson. "My name is Jack," said Jack, "and she's my sister Annie." "Where do you live?" asked Erickson. "Far away. We're just visiting Greenland for the day," said Annie. "Do you live around here?" "Yes," said the boy. "Would you like to meet my family?" "Sure," said Annie. "Absolutely," said Jack. Annie climbed back into the rowboat. The boy limped to the edge of the ice. "Do you need help rowing?" asked Jack. "No, thank you. I can still do it," the boy said. Jack carefully stood up. He gave Erickson his hand and helped him to the boat. Then Jack took his seat next to Annie. Erickson picked up the oars. He looked over his shoulder and began rowing through the ice-cold seawater. Chapter 6, The Mist of Time. As Erickson rowed across the bay, the waves were rough, but his oar strokes were strong and steady. "So where do you live?" Jack asked, rocking from side to side. "Eric's Inlet." The boy nodded to a place between the steep hills where the sea flowed in. "Did people name it for your father?" said Annie. "No," said Erickson. "My father named it for himself." "Does he work at one of the research stations?" Jack asked. Erickson looked puzzled. "I mean, is he a scientist?" asked Jack. The boy shook his head. "He is a sailor," he said. "Oh, cool," said Jack. "I am a seafarer too," said Erickson. "Soon I will sail away on my own." Annie laughed as if she thought he was kidding. Jack didn't know what to think. He liked Erickson, but he couldn't figure him out. The boy's manner, his spear, and his outfit were really odd. And who says seafarer anymore? Jack wondered. Erickson rowed through the choppy waters and into Eric's Inlet. The hills on either side of the narrow water passage sparkled with ice and snow. As the boat moved along the inlet, clouds covered the sky. The air grew foggy. Soon it was hard to see where they were. Jack could hear seabirds calling, but he couldn't see them. Icebergs drifted close to the rowboat. They looked like ghost ships. "Spooky," said Jack. "Yeah," Annie whispered, "but we're doing what our rhyme says to do. On a day that seems endless, with no dark of night, travel through fog, travel through light." "Right, we are," said Jack, "but I still don't know what no dark of night means." Before Annie could answer, a bellowing noise came from up ahead. "What's that?" said Jack. The rowboat moved past a flat iceberg. Through the fog, a huge animal loomed into view. The creature was as big as a polar bear. It had 2 long tusks. "A walrus," said Jack. The walrus had bushy whiskers, a broad head, and flippers. Its wrinkled skin was the color of cinnamon. "Hi, mister," said Annie with a laugh. "I didn't know walruses were so big." Erickson rowed on. He steered the boat between sheets of floating ice. 2 ringed seals rested on one sheet. Seagulls were perched on another. "Look, a reindeer," said Annie. Through the fog, Jack saw a delicate-looking deer on the shore. Its antlers looked like tall tree branches. "You're beautiful," called Annie. The reindeer dipped its head shyly. She said, "Thanks," said Annie. "Do you know reindeer are also called caribou?" "Cool," said Jack. "And their noses warm the cold air before it goes to their lungs," said Annie. "Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer," said Jack with a laugh. "Did you write a report on reindeer, too?" "No," said Annie. "I just really love learning stuff like that." Jack smiled. Annie knew more about animals than anyone. She could talk to them and hear them in special ways. As Erickson rode down the river of seawater, the fog cleared. The clouds drifted off. The cliffs and the waves sparkled with sunlight again. Soon they passed low hills and greenish-brown fields. There was less ice and snow. A few trees dotted the land. Sheep were scattered across the hillsides. "Oh, this is so beautiful," Annie said. "Has your family lived in Greenland for a long time?" 8 years, said Erickson. "We began the voyage from Iceland with 25 ships, but 11 ships did not make it." "Are you serious?" said Jack. "Yes," said Erickson. "That's so sad," said Annie. Jack was confused. What year was this? "Everyone knew the journey would be hard," said the boy. He looked over his shoulder as he rode around a curve. "This is where we live," he said as the boat glided into a sheltered cove. "Wow," breathed Annie. Anchored along the water's edge were 14 ships. They were long, slender sailing ships made of wood. Dragon heads were carved into their prows. Jack gasped. He'd seen ships like these before. They were Viking ships. Suddenly, Jack understood what had happened. He and Annie had come to Greenland in the time of Vikings, about 1,000 years ago. Chapter 7, Another World. Lots of things made sense to Jack now. Ericsson's clothes, his spear, calling himself a seafarer, and his story of 11 ships lost while sailing from Iceland to Greenland. Erickson rowed toward a small wooden pier near the Viking ships. When the boat reached the shore, he jumped out. "We are here," he said. Jack and Annie climbed carefully out of the boat. As Erickson tied it to the pier, Jack turned to Annie. "Those are Viking ships," he whispered. "We saw ships like that on our mission to Ireland, remember? Viking raiders were invading the coast." "Yikes," said Annie, her eyes wide. "We should escape now while we can," said Jack. Wait, let's look at the rhyme," said Annie. Jack slipped the rhyme out of his bag. Annie pointed to the last verse. They read silently. "Explore different worlds, show friends where to go, unite all these worlds with a word that will glow." "I think we're doing what Morgan wants," Annie said. "We explored the world of seals and orcas and narwhals, and now this world, the Viking world." "But what about—" Jack started. "Shh," said Annie. Erickson had finished tying up the boat. Jack put the rhyme back in his bag. "Follow me," Erickson said. Even though he was still limping, Erickson walked faster than Jack and Annie. He bounded up the rocky shore and started up a hill. Jack and Annie hurried after him. Soon they could see a cluster of buildings over the crest of the hill. There was a long wooden house and smaller thatched huts and several barns. A few people were working in the chilly sunlight. They were all dressed in several layers of clothing. Women were hanging clothes to dry. Men were stacking wood. A boy was leading cows to a barn. A few girls were feeding hogs and ducks. Chickens and dogs wandered about. Suddenly, the dogs began to bark. Everyone looked around. A woman cried out and pointed at Jack and Annie. 2 brown and white dogs bolted down the hill, barking ferociously. Erickson shouted a command. The dogs stopped barking. A tall, burly man strode down the slope. "My father," said Erickson. Erickson's father had long red hair and a wild, bushy beard. He carried an axe. "Oh, no," whispered Jack. The Viking man looked fierce. "Wait here," Erickson ordered Jack and Annie. Leaving them with the dogs, he limped to his father. Jack nervously watched him speak to the wild-looking man. "How are you guys doing today?" Annie asked the dogs. The dogs barked. "Oh, you're just pretending to be scary," she said. The dogs tilted their heads, then started to pant. Their tails were wagging. Annie laughed and held out her hand for the dogs to sniff. Their sniffing quickly turned into licking. Ericson and his father walked down to Jack and Annie. "This is my father, Eric," the boy said. He is the chieftain here." "Oh, hello, sir," said Jack. "Glad to meet you," said Annie. "Where do you come from?" Ericson's father asked in a deep voice. "Frog Creek, Pennsylvania," said Jack. "In the United States of America," Annie added. "You might not have heard of it," Jack said quickly. "No, I have not. Where is that?" Eric asked gruffly. "It's on the continent of North America," said Annie. Oh no, thought Jack. He knew the Vikings hadn't yet heard of the United States or North America. In Eric's time, the United States wouldn't be a country for another 700 years. But Eric just nodded. "So you are from far away," he said. "Yes," said Annie. "Welcome," said Eric. He turned to his son, Leif. Let us take your friends to the house." "Thanks," said Annie. Then she and Jack started up the hill, following the boy and his father. Eric called the boy Leif, Jack thought. Leif? Ericson. Leif Ericson. "Annie," he whispered, "Ericson's first name is Leif." "I heard that," she said. "Ericson must be his last name." "Yes, I've read about Leif Ericson and Eric the Red," said Jack. "They're famous." "Famous?" said Annie. "Oh, yeah," said Jack. "They're two of the most famous explorers in the history of the world." Chapter 8, Around the Fire. "Are you serious?" said Annie. "Leif was the first European to step onto the North American continent," said Jack, 500 years before Christopher Columbus." "No way," breathed Annie. "Yes way," said Jack. "Come along," Eric called from farther up the hill. Annie and Jack hurried to catch up with Leif and his father. "So you're Eric the Red and Leif Ericson?" Annie asked excitedly. "Yes," Eric said. Before Annie could say more, Jack changed the subject. "Why did you decide to live here in Greenland?" he said. "I wanted a new life," Eric said. "People call us pirates, but I am a seafarer who searches for safe harbors where I can live with my family. I have found one here at the edge of the world. I named it Greenland." "Why?" asked Annie. Why'd you call it that?" "Because the word is nice, is it not?" said Eric with a wink. "I hoped it would make others want to come live here too." The small group of people watched as Jack and Annie climbed to the top of the hill with Leif and Eric. One of the women in the group stepped forward. She had long blonde braids and a kind face. "Who are these children, my son?" she said to Leif. "My new friends, Jack and Annie," said Leif. "They come from far away." Leif's mother smiled. "Welcome, Jack and Annie. Come share our dinner with us," she said. She led them to the largest house on the hill. It was a long stone house with a steep roof made of grass. Leif's mother ushered Jack and Annie through the door. She took Jack and Annie's hats, gloves, and coats. She put them on a bench near the door. Jack put his wool bag there, too. The Viking house was dark and warm inside. Lit only with oil lamps, the windowless house was one long narrow room. In the center was a fire pit. Smoke rose through a hole in the roof. The house smelled of fish and grease and animal fur. Eric and Leif sat on low stools near the fire. "Sit, warm yourselves," Eric said. Jack and Annie sat down with them. Leif's mother stirred a black pot over the fire. Then she ladled food into stone bowls and gave them to everyone along with wooden spoons. "Thank you," said Jack and Annie. The food in the bowl looked like a milky gray mush. Jack was afraid to taste it, but when he did, he actually liked it. It tasted like oatmeal. "Did you sail with your family and friends?" Eric asked them as they ate. "No, just us," said Annie. "Jack and me." "But how is that possible?" said Eric. "How did two children find their way here alone?" Well, Jack didn't know what to say. "We have a map," said Annie. "A map?" said Eric. "A map," said Leif. "May we see it?" "Sure," said Jack. He put down his bowl and grabbed his bag. He took out their map. He unfolded it and held it up for them to see. Leif and his parents stared in silent wonder. "Our land is south of here," said Jack, pointing. "It's a long way south. It's off the map." "So you used this map to come to Greenland in your ship?" asked Eric. We came in the treehouse," said Annie. "Treehouse? That is the name of your ship?" asked Eric. "Well, sort of," said Jack. "It's not much of a ship, but you guys really have great ships. We saw..." Wait, your ship must be the best in the world, said Eric. 2 children sailed it alone to Greenland. I would like very much to see a ship such as yours. Oh, Jack caught his breath. Let us go see it now. Eric stood up. Can we please wait until morning, Annie said. We're pretty tired. Eric, let the children rest, Leif's mother said. In the morning we will all go, the whole village will go, to see their wondrous ship. Come, Jack and Annie. She picked up an oil lamp. They all stood. Good night, Annie said to Leif and Eric. Jack put their map back into his bag, then he and Annie followed Leif's mother to a shadowy end of the house. You may sleep here, she said. She pointed to 2 fur-covered benches against the wall. Thank you, said Annie. She and Jack climbed onto the benches, and Leif's mother covered them with more soft furs. Rest well, she said. Keep the lamp burning, so you will not be afraid. She put the oil lamp on a small table, then she left them. Jack, whispered Annie, we don't have a ship to show them. I know, he said. We'd better leave soon. After everyone goes to bed, we can sneak away. Right, said Annie. We can borrow Leif's rowboat. She yawned. It'll be dark outside, said Jack, trying to keep his eyes open. How will we find our way? We can worry about that later, said Annie. Right, said Jack, closing his eyes. Let's just rest until Leif and his parents go to bed. Stay awake. Don't go to... Before Jack could say sleep, he dropped off to sleep. The Midnight Sun, Chapter 9. Jack, Aunt whispered, wake up. Jack rubbed his eyes. Where is everyone? He asked. I just checked. They're asleep at the other end of the house, said Annie. We have to go. Now, said Jack. Maybe we should wait till daylight. No, they might get up before then, said Annie. You're right, said Jack. He threw off the warm fur and sat up. Let's go, said Annie. She picked up the burning oil lamp. Jack grabbed his bag. As they crept to the door, snoring came from the other end of the long house. They stopped at the bench by the door. In the dim light of the lamp, they put on their coats and hats and mittens. We should write a note to Leif, whispered Jack. Good idea, said Annie. Jack pulled out his notebook and pencil from his bag. How's this? He whispered as he wrote. Dear Leif, we had to leave suddenly. We are borrowing your rowboat to go back to the bay. We will leave it where we met you. Many thanks to you and your family. Perfect, said Annie. And let's leave him our map since he liked it so much. Good idea, breathed Jack. He tore the note from the notebook and placed it on the bench with their map. Jack and Annie pulled on their gloves. Then Annie opened the door and they slipped out of the house. It was freezing outside, but to Jack's surprise, it was sunny. What time is it? He asked. I thought it was night. Me too, said Annie, but there's no one around. Not even the dogs. Hurry. Jack and Annie took off down the hill. In the cold, windy sunlight, they hurried to the shore. Small waves were splashing against the moored Viking ships. Leif's rowboat was tied to the pier near them. Jack and Annie stepped onto the pier, and Jack untied the rope. Just as he and Annie were about to climb aboard, someone yelled, Stop! Oh, no, said Annie. Leif was limping down the hill toward them. He held their note and map in his hand. I heard you leave, he called. Then I read your message. I must take you to your ship. It is not easy to row in windy waters. But your knee still hurts, I can tell, said Annie. Leif shrugged. That is not important, he said. But we should go quickly so I can return before morning. Morning? I thought it was morning now, said Jack. It is close to midnight, Leif said. You have come in the time of the midnight sun. I get it, Annie said to Jack, on a day that seems endless with no dark of night. Right, said Jack. Now he remembered the midnight sun. In the far north, the summer sun can still be seen at midnight. Here, you forgot this, said Leif. He thrust the map and note into Jack's hands. You will need your map to sail your ship home. No, we won't, said Jack. We know the way. You need it more. He handed the map back to Leif. Oh, Leif stared at the map as if it were made of gold. I cannot believe you would give this to me, he said in a hushed voice. Thank you very much. No problem, said Annie. Leif smiled. Let us go, he said. Jack put the note into his coat pocket. Then he and Annie climbed aboard. Leif sat across from them. He began rowing through the choppy water. Tell me about your land, he said. What is it like? It is everything, said Annie. Mountains and valleys and oceans and rivers. And lakes and forests and grassy plains, said Jack. And farms, small towns, and huge towns called cities. With the wind at their backs, Leif rowed swiftly. The water was bathed in a gold mist. Soon Leif rowed the boat from Eric's Inlet into the bay. You can drop us off there, said Jack. He pointed to the shore where they had saved the Narwhal. But where is your ship? Asked Leif. I'm really sorry, but we promised the person who owns it that we would not show it to anyone, Annie said. I understand, said Leif, nodding. We must always honor our promises. You should hurry home before your mom and dad wake up, said Annie. They'll be worried if they find you missing. Yes, said Leif, smiling. They will think I have sailed away with you. They know I am eager to travel to faraway places. Leif rowed to the shore, and Jack and Annie hopped out of the boat. Goodbye, the Viking boy said. I thank you again for your map. I promise I will make good use of it. And I promise, you will have great success, said Jack. Do you think so? Said Leif. Absolutely, said Annie. Leif raised his arms above his head and clenched his fist. Yay, he said. Jack and Annie laughed. Leif waved goodbye. Using his oars, he pushed his boat offshore. I hope your knee feels better soon, called Annie. I have already forgotten it, Leif called back. Then he rode away through the soft light of the Arctic night. Leif's really tough and brave, said Annie. He'll make a good explorer. Yeah, great one, said Jack. He took a deep breath. Guess we can go now. Jack and Annie walked around the bend in the shore. Annie gasped. Jack, look, she said. What? Said Jack. There, in the water, at the edge of the ice, said Annie. A narwhal, whispered Jack. Yes, said Annie, our narwhal. 10, a word that glows. Hi, you're back, said Annie. The narwhal was about 10 feet away. He was swimming near a sheet of ice that jutted out from the shore. His ivory tusk was pointed at them. Is something wrong with him? Said Jack. Why is he here? He wants to tell us something, said Annie. How do you know? Said Jack. I just know, said Annie. I'm going out to him. I'll crawl on the ice. No, don't, said Jack. It could crack. Don't worry, it's really thick, said Annie. It's probably been here for thousands of years. Annie stepped out onto the packed ice. Then she got on her hands and knees and began crawling toward the narwhal. Careful, said Jack. I got it, said Annie, reaching the edge of the ice. The narwhal raised his head above the water. Hi, you. What's up? Said Annie, grinning. Why did you come back? The narwhal made noises that sounded like a door creaking. Then he tapped Annie's head with his unicorn horn. Annie laughed. Thank you, she said. The narwhal then turned and swam away. He soon disappeared under the water. Annie crawled back toward Jack. She stepped off the ice sheet onto the shore. That was so cool, she said. What happened? Said Jack. Simple, said Annie. He came back to thank us. You're kidding, said Jack. Nope, said Annie. That's basically what he said. Thanks. And then I said thanks back. That's all, said Jack. It's enough, said Annie. Jack took a deep breath. Okay, now we can leave. He and Annie quickly walked over the slope. The treehouse was still sitting on the pebbly shore. It was lit by the orange and red light of the midnight sun. Jack and Annie slipped through the window. Annie grabbed the Pennsylvania book that always took them home. She pointed to a photo of the Frog Creek woods. I wish we could go there. Nothing happened. The wind did not start to blow. I wish we could go there, Annie said again. The wind still did not start to blow. Why aren't we leaving? Said Jack. Let's look at our rhyme, said Annie, at the last verse. Jack pulled the rhyme out of his bag. He read aloud, explore different worlds, show friends where to go. Okay, we did that, said Annie. We showed our friends where to go. We gave Leif our map. And we showed the narwhal how to escape from the shallow water. Yeah, we did all that, said Jack, and I wasn't even thinking about the rhyme. Read the rest, said Annie. Jack read the last 2 lines. Unite all these worlds with a word that will glow. I forgot about those lines too, said Jack. What do they mean? What's the word? I don't know, but if it glows, it must be written down somewhere, said Annie. Check your notebook. Jack pulled out his notebook, and he and Annie looked at it together. Oh man, I forgot to take any notes, said Jack. What about our Greenland book? He took out the Greenland book and thumbed through it. Nothing going here. Wait, what about our message to Leif's family, said Annie. Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out the crumpled note. He and Annie looked at it together. Nothing, said Jack. Hold on, said Annie. Look at the letter T. Annie pointed at the letter T near the bottom of their note. The letter seemed a little brighter than the other letters. Then suddenly it glowed like it was on fire. Next to the T, the letter H grew brighter, then A grew brighter than the next letter, N. One by one, the letters grew brighter until THANKS was all aglow. Thanks, cried Annie. That's the word. Thanks, said Jack. Why, thanks. I'll explain when we get back, said Annie. We can go now. Annie pointed at the picture of the Frog Creek again. I wish we could go there. The wind started to blow. Yay, it worked, said Jack. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still. absolutely still. Chapter 11. You. Warm air filled the treehouse. No time at all had passed in Frog Creek. The sky was dark blue. The first stars were out. Jack and Annie were wearing their summer clothes again. "Welcome home," said Annie. Jack sighed with relief. Frog Creek seemed especially nice in the soft twilight. The woods smelled of green trees and green plants. "Let's go," said Jack. He left Morgan's rhyme, the Greenland book, and their note for Leif on the floor of the treehouse. Then he put his notebook into his backpack and headed down the rope ladder. Annie followed. As Jack and Annie started through the woods, the air was filled with the sounds of crickets and tree frogs. "So, do you get it about thanks?" Annie asked. Sort of, but it seems so ordinary," said Jack. "People say it all the time and they don't even think about it." "Exactly," said Annie, "so let's think about it." "Okay," said Jack. "You say thanks when someone helps you or is nice to you or gives you a gift, right?" said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. "Leif helped us free the Narwhal, and we said thanks," said Annie. "His parents gave us food, and we said thanks. We gave Leif our map, and he said thanks. The Narwhal came back and said thanks, and I thanked him for thanking us and for just being amazing." "Got it," said Jack, "but what does thanks do?" Annie took a deep breath. "Okay, this is the important part," she said. "When the Vikings say thanks to us and we thank them, our world joins with their world. We unite our worlds, like the rhyme said. 2 worlds 1,000 years apart come together." "Whoa, that's cool," said Jack. Jack and Annie came out of the woods and started down the sidewalk. "There's more," said Annie. Her eyes were shining. "When the Narwhal says thanks, our world joins with his world, a world in the darkest deep sea no one knows much about. But if people really knew how to thank Narwhals just for being amazing and how to hear their thanks, it could change everything. Like, it might save them if they're ever in danger." She sounded close to tears. "Do you get it now?" "Yeah, I do actually," said Jack. "Thanks to you." "No, thanks to you," said Annie. "No, you," said Jack. "You," said Annie. You," said Jack. "Thanks to both of us," shouted Annie. "Come on, we're late," said Jack. He and Annie ran down their dark street. They crossed their yard. They dashed up the porch steps and banged through the front door. "Mom, Dad, we're home," shouted Annie. "Thanks for everything," yelled Jack. There's a picture in the back of them talking to Leif, and it tells you some facts. Eric the Red was a famous Viking explorer. Around AD 982, he was the first European to discover Greenland. Eric's son Leif Erikson, known as Leif the Lucky, led the first European expedition to the mainland of North America 500 years before Christopher Columbus. The made-up part, the fiction, is Jack and Annie gave Leif a map to help him get there. That didn't really happen. And of course, you can find out more facts in the fact tracker, Narwhals and Other Whales. I didn't know narwhals were even whales. Studying the Arctic Ocean takes a lot of planning. Scientists work in stations built right on the ice. They must have snowmobiles, ice drills, and lots of research equipment, as well as food and medicine to last for months. And then there's a picture showing you some of the things that they need. And they give you a lot of facts that come from the fact book at the end of this book. We're not going to read through all of those, but if you're interested in whales and different types of things about them, you can get the companion book to this one, Magic Treehouse Narwhal on a Sunny Night. Now stay tuned. Click on the other link to get the activities we're going to do along with this book. Thanks for reading with us. This has been Miss Kathy. Goodbye.